It's ready.
Okay, thanks, Nadia, and thanks everyone for joining this session. Today, as for today's tutorial, I do receive a quick survey from every one of you, I think, from this class. And most of you who had SketchUp experience before ranked yourself as beginner level and intermediate level. So, which is good. For this tutorial, our main goal is not about how you create fancy works. It's more about the workflow, how you work through your foundation, your plan, your line works from AutoCAD to the SketchUp, and how we make the process more efficient. So it's this foundational refresher tutorial. I would say this is very helpful, and this is a stage that really can elevate your efficiency of your workflow for your future projects. To start, I would like to go over some of my informations, and thanks for Nadia. Had a fantastic introduction about myself. So you already know, like I graduated from BLA program from Gulf in 2018, and not last year, actually the last semester, I taught urban design studio for the current third-year students with band together. In that course, we also share some modeling, rendering, tutorial workflows. Now I'm going to share some of my own personal works, either for my in-practice projects and also for my schoolworks. All of them, they were created based on SketchUp Foundation with different kind of skills touch up. For example, Photoshop's Onscape, V-Ray, those I will call this after modeling rendering program to elevate the quality. But uh, all in this, the most important part is still about the foundation, which is about 3D model. So this one is from my work. The project it locates in Toronto in Scarborough area. It's a redevelopment project of the public space and mixed use community. And this one it's actually came from the same course. I did this course about 7 years ago, I think. And that's the part of the perspective of my project for this course. We started on East Bay in Toronto, waterfront. And this is one of the rendering created from SketchUp, V-Ray, and Photoshop at the end. So you will see this tiny descriptions at the bottom to describe what kind of programs I used. And this one, came from my capstone project, my fourth year capstone projects. It based on the SketchUp, based on Photoshop, and also I imported some of my hand painting to enhance the image. As you can see here, the entire architectural design, the landform design were all created in SketchUp. So you may heard uh, by other people or by the circle of the profession always say Rhino is much stronger than SketchUp. It's true. But if you can use SketchUp wisely, you can also create some very complex shapes, landforms, flows through these platforms. And this is the perspective section I created for the competition we won end of last year in Markham. It's part of the Union City development. And also some streetscape sections combined with CAD works, the standard dimensions, and also 3D modeling and Onscape rendering together. Okay, so the reason I share all those works in different styles, right? I want to express SketchUp is also a quite powerful tool, and compared with Rhino, it's easier to access, especially for you if you are a beginner to the modeling platform, and also not just for us, for anyone not really in these professions. For example, if you are going to share your model with your clients, or if you are going to share the model in the public consultation, like the engagement meetings, right? The easy access feature of the SketchUp allows you to give control to other people, to flip around your model, to go inside of the model, to explore the space you built up. While Rhino is more elite circled program, yes, it's very powerful. It supports you to create crazy shapes, especially if you know how to use Grasshopper, right? Adding up the coding features and also even with more AI features to allows you to create way more complex forms, spaces. But the high barrier of Rhino sometimes limits the access from the people from the other side. The people not really in our professions. So when you use the tools, it's also your decision to compare which tool really fits you in the condition or in the situation of your design. Uh, so today, the tutorial is about 3D modeling, the SketchUp refresher or workflow. But before we really get into the modeling process, your CAD is also one of the key factors that can drive you to make a very successful model. So the preparing stage in AutoCAD is also very important. So today I will start from the AutoCAD preparing stage to make sure you understand before get into your modeling, your SketchUp program, you can have a good and clean base for you to build up in SketchUp. As what I show the quote here is, I think it's one of my favorite quote, especially in the working process. It says, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Sometimes when we slow down our pace, we actually can increase our efficiency of work. So in the design process, not just the 3D modeling process, don't rush yourself. Do step by step, plan ahead. You will have a much efficient workflow in the process. Okay, so I will open up my CAD and we will go step by step. Okay, as you can see here, this is the typical base of the CAD ground floor plan, right? We call this site plan or landscape plan. While we in the office work, we also, because we coordinated with different consultants, different professions, for example, architects, civil engineers, electrical engineers, uh, sometimes interior designers, right? So the way how we work in the CAD is we are using a function called X-reference, which is the external reference functions, which allow us to lay other people's background into our drawing. And also for due to the teamwork within the office, we sometimes separate different type of landscape plans in this workspace. For example, like this is, I think, the most comprehensive situation that we separate the hardscape or the paving structures away from the planting, the softscape. So before we go into the model, we always want to simplify the files, which means we will need to combine necessary files together into one CAD. So what I will do first is I would, as you can see here, I have a window. This is XREF. If you don't know where to open it, just type XREF. You will get this window. And also, the other important window is layers. If you type layer, you will see this. Okay. Okay, for the first thing, I will delete whatever not necessary in the SketchUp. What we see here, we have all these annotations, right? We don't need it in the SketchUp. So I will select one and right click, choose select similar, and delete. And then the paving hatches, we will not bring them into the SketchUp because the logic of SketchUp is recognized by lines. So we will click the hatches and same thing, select similar, right? We will delete all the hatches we can see. Oops. Okay, for the cleanness, for now, I will hide my planting. Just for the cleanness reason. And then what else we don't need? Dash lines, right? Think about 3D modeling process is the process you are going to make reality space. In our real space, we never see dash lines. Dash line, they don't exist. The purpose of those dash lines, they are reference lines, or we call sometimes the property lines, the easement lines, to form the boundary of the space, right? So in this step, I will select those dash lines and delete. Okay, so now we see everything is in solid. And also another point, it's about the line thickness. Sometimes in our CAD plans or in our CAD drawings, we always thicken whatever the important elements or thicken structural lines, for example, architectural footprint. But in the reality world, the objects are formed by the surface, not really the lines. For example, if you have a paper box, if you flatten it or expand it, you won't see the lines we drew. The line happens in a situation that two faces face into different directions. So in this case, we will select all. You can just type Control A by selecting all and type properties. You will see a window like this. The 200 words shows the total of elements you have in your drawing. And now let's go to the line. just make sure the line thickness, line weights, they are all 0. And this is a very important step. If you contain line thickness and bring it to your SketchUp, SketchUp will assume it's a face, which means it's not a one line structure. It becomes 4 lines or 2 lines, which will make your model process way more complex. And let's go to the polylines. And this global width, let's make it 0. Okay. Okay, now we have all these lines cleaned. Now, what we have in this pen, I think I still have some hatches. So let's clean up the hatches. What else I have? Side furnitures, right? Side furnitures, if you understand the space, side furnitures, they are adds on to your space. So in this case, I would isolate them in the process of preparing so we can have a cleaner space while we still can bring them into SketchUp. Before I showed you, I usually make blocks for any this type of side furnitures. The advancement of making block is making block allows you duplicate the same elements over and over again through the site. So for example, if this is a bike ring block and all those other blocks, they were duplicated from this original block. And then when I select this and when I select similar, you will find everything are selected. Same logic. We will select all those side furnitures. I think I forgot to block the benches and signage, but we can still select them. And those water jets. Okay, let's just make sure we have selected all side furnitures. And now let's type block. And we can create this block by naming side furniture. And we select original points. Okay. Now they are created into one block. And also, as what I mentioned before, when we imported the drawings data into SketchUp, SketchUp recognizes the file by lines, by calculating lines. So after this step, there's one more very important step to do is to make sure we don't have lines overlapped. Especially when we drew a line. Sometimes, for example, these drawings, we thought they were the same lines, but actually they don't really overlap. right? So in this case, I would erase those overlapped lines to simplify the calculation, especially when you have the curve shape. In SketchUp, there's no real curve in it. The curve is divided by segments. And the way how it divides into the segments is through its own calculation. We don't really control that. So sometimes if we have two overlapped curving lines, when we import them into SketchUp, you will see the segments. They are different. While you will see many pieces of tiny shapes banded together and created so many unnecessary faces, while for you it's very hard to clean in the model. In this case, I have cleaned up the overlapped curve, but I can, for the purpose of the situation, I can make a curve here and let's see what really happened. Good. And also, usually for the concrete, we always have those expansion joints, contraction joints, and those joints will also create complexity of the surface. While the entire piece of this surface is concrete, it's the same material. Concrete joints, they are often added for the constructability, right? And in the modeling process, sometimes it's only for aesthetics. It's not about dividing the face. In this situation, I will also isolate all these concrete joints. Okay, now what else? What else? They're not really on the surface. They are after add-on. Yes, this trellis. If you can see here. So in this case, I would isolate this trellis. Okay, there's still a few more hatches I need to erase. Okay, double check. Okay, something that we forgot, the planting file, right? So now it's the time we bring back the planting unlock. And now how do I merge these two files together for the ease of access our model, right? Let's go to the XREF window, select it, click right click. There is one command called bind. Okay, let's bind this. What happened? The XREF's gone, right? And this planting file becomes one block reference into this file. So now we only have one file. Okay, so after we done this, one more work is to select, let's just hide all the block together. Oh, right. And also, in the CAD, we like to have those detailed layers to identify line elements. Although in SketchUp, SketchUp also has this layering system. It's called tag now, right? But the way of working is all different. So before we import our CAD into the SketchUp, changing the context of the layers is also important. For me, my personally, what I really like to do is I would transform all context into the default layer, which is layer 0. So I will select all. And here is a layer, it's a varies. And now let's change them to 0. Okay. And we can create a block, a layer called block. Then let's relocate the blocks we created into that layer for us to observe final check of the file. And we can hide this block. Okay, now anything we have. The planters, why this are block? This is very, I think is one of the important character as well especially in urban design when we design the streets. The continuance and the consistency of streetscape design is very important when we design a community. For example, in city of Toronto, we have design standard on the street for basically for the space anywhere falls into city of Toronto property, which is the public right of way. In this public right of way, we have to make sure all our design elements they are standardized for consistency reason. That's the reason why I block this planter because we want this consistency. So in the same case, we will bring them into the block. Okay, now what else we have? The reason I left here is sometimes when we hit the interaction, the space sometimes may not be equal. And that's the only situation we would apply some special design. It's actually a varied form from your standard design. So it's showing similar design elements, but in a different sizing. But we also can delete it. That's okay because we can add it back later in the SketchUp. Okay, now, as you can see here, we only have lines, right? Same thing, I'm trying to delete this overlapped lines. Okay, so Okay, now I don't think we have this overlapped line anymore. I think I lose this planter here, so just treat this. Okay, so the very, very last step before we go to the SketchUp is to explode our polylines. By the way, I want to add one thing here. It's about our CAD drawings. We know for line comment in the SketchUp, we have the typical line, which is single line from point to point. And we also have polylines, which allows you to draw multiple connected line and also the spline line, which is SPL. This allows you to draw random shapes, but the limit of this SPL comment is it doesn't really allow you to get the dimension to catch the control points, which is the segment, either in SketchUp modeling and in your future construction document stage. Like, for example, I don't know what's the radius of this because this function only allows you to draw random curves. It's more like a free writing, free sketching form of the curves, even though you can control it by this computerized segment. But in the reality, it doesn't allow you to catch the dimension point, to catch the size of the lines. So during the CAD process, in professional practice, we usually don't use this function. So just remember, in your CAD drawings, lines and polylines, they are only two comments you should use. And while in the SketchUp prefers the lines, the single lines, much more. The reason why is in a situation if we have a shape like this and it's break joints or intersected by a single line. What happened? It's supposed to have it's supposed to be a new intersect point here because it's intersected. But if we select the comment, like the shapes we drew here, we don't really see the intersection point. In the same scenario, if we bring this shape into SketchUp, SketchUp sometimes may not recognize this intersection. And then we would have to recreate this intersection here to allow the forms or the shapes we drew to make this intentional intersection. So to simplify this purging or cleaning, preparing process in the SketchUp, personally, I prefer to explode it all polylines into single lines. Okay, in this case, we would select all again and by typing explode to break all the polylines into single lines. And now, if we select all, if we bring back our hiding layers and select all. What we see here, we only have block reference, line, single line, right? Circle, a simple circle, because circle they are closed. So in AutoCAD, it's not recognized as a line. It shows as a circle, but it is a single line. And also the arc. Arc, they are curved lines, open curved line, not closed. Now we can see they are in the simplest form they can reach. And that's the cleanness we want. And remember, I mentioned we don't want overlapped line, but I saved this overlapped curve here purposely by showing you why we should not have overlapped lines in SketchUp. And now if you see them, they are overlapped lines. And if we select them, you see two arcs. We'll see what happened. Okay, now do one more check-in comment. Let's select all. And let's just purge by typing PU and purge all. This will allow you to delete, to clean up all unnecessary memories, data, shapes, forms, hatches in this CAD. So you will not bring extra weights into SketchUp. Okay, it said there are no approachable objects, right? So it's good. And now let's see how simplified the layer is, right? Okay, so now let's just save the file. Okay. Okay, now it's a time for us to go to SketchUp. Any question in the CAD stage? Okay, where's my SketchUp? My SketchUp is here. We'll open up a fresh file on SketchUp. Personally, I would prefer to select the model. As you can see here, there's some more templates, right? My personal preference is always the architectural model in millimeter units. The advantage of this is architectural templates gives a gray light backgrounds. And also the units, the measurement here is millimeters. And in the landscape architectural world, when we drew the plans, when we drew any drawings from application stage, like schematic design into your construction documents, we usually use millimeters as our priority units. So that's the reason I prefer the architectural templates in millimeters. Okay, so this is the SketchUp. It may look a bit different than what you have, right? So I will show you around the menus and also some of my suggestions. You can lay out your menus and windows. So let me just bring this back to the very beginning, the original look of your SketchUp. Okay, so that's the entry look of your default setting of the SketchUp, right? So the first thing I would highly recommend you guys to open up is, okay, let's go to the top ribbon and right click. You'll see a drop down menus with different windows. So one of the function I think is the most important, and I would highly recommend you to open up is this one. It's called large tool set. It will give you a more complex menu than what you have on the top here. And yeah, I just personally just leave it to the side. Okay. As you can see here, all this basically your foundational comments are included into this side ribbon, the large tool set. And also for the efficiency purpose of your SketchUp, it's just like your AutoCAD. When you were trained for AutoCAD in your site engineering or site construction course, you've been asked to remember all the shortcuts, like the comments, by typing your keyboard, not by looking for exact the comment in your ribbon. So that's something I would also prefer to ask you to do that. So talking about the shortcuts, if you leave your if leave your mouse on the top of your, oh, it's your menu in actually in the older version, it will give you the short key, the fast key of that. But that's okay if you don't find it. Now we can go to the window. And there is one window called Preferences. So let's click that. This window pop out. We can find the shortcuts, right? And also, if you, after these tutorials, I will share some links of other people's tutorials. You can go to the links. You can find some very basic SketchUp tutorials, introduce the showcase specifically. But other than this large tool set, there are some important and also useful functions. I would suggest you to set the showcase yourself. The first one is the standard view. If we click camera, click go to standard views, we will see top, bottom, front, back, left, right, right? Those are the standard views we quite use often in our urban design studies. In your default setting of the SketchUp, they have not been assigned. So those are the keys I assigned to them. Okay. And one of other comment is called, there's a filter you can search any function that SketchUp has. So there is another function called edit height rest of model. This allows you to see and to turn off the reference model outside of your current group. And if you ask what is group, I will show you in the modeling process what is group and how we use the comment group. Okay, so these two functions, comments are strongly to be assigned with shortcuts on your keyboards. So when you select a comment, you can type, for example, Control J if you like, and click this plus. It will replace whatever is already there, or it will assign your new shortcuts into the blank space. All right. Okay, let's just clear this. Okay. And also, if you notice that in your camera, you have different views of perspective situation. The parallel projection, they are not in perspective view, they are not in our human eyes views, but in our technical plans or technical sections, elevations, we always use parallel views. So my preference on viewing the model during the making process is the parallel projection, which is same as the view we use in the technical drawings. And also there's another view called 2-point perspective. 2-point perspective, that means there are only two vantage points on horizontal level. There's no vantage point on vertical levels. This means in that perspective, horizontal lines, they will direct into the vantage point as how we understand the perspective. But all the vertical lines, they will not go to the vantage point. And this is also useful when we compare the space and when we want to make sure sometimes if we make a shape with vertical flows, we want the view to be shown in a vertical way, right? So once we have a model, we can compare what is perspective view and what is the true 2-point perspective view. Okay, but let's go to the parallel projects. If you see this person and the path here, this is one of the like I would say interesting feature of the SketchUp. If you've been using different versions of SketchUp, you would notice this object here, they are always different in every year's SketchUp updates. But for now, let's just delete this because we don't need it, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna import our CAD drawings finally. Okay, and let's just find the files. Okay, what you see here, that's our CAD plan, right? Okay, usually we would align this So either you find your reference point in your CAD drawing, or you are going to add a reference point or reference shape to limit the orientation of your drawings and the align points of your drawings. So now in this case, I would use this corner of the building here. And let's just rotate. So rotate default shortcut is R, which is this, okay? Okay, remember I said the overlap the lines. I saved a overlap the curve there for you to see what happened. Oh, actually, okay, this is in its best scenario. It did not go beyond, which is okay in this situation. Probably because it's in a quite simple drawings. But we can see something here. If we go to the window, we go to the model info. We'll see how it calculates it, right? Now we have 500-ish edges. That's the reason we try to purge the drawing in the CAD, try to, to make your size, to make your calculation easier for SketchUp to process. And also, if you go to the Windows, you can find there is function called tray, or we can create new tray, right? In the current trays, we can see some windows. And one of the window here I have is called entity info. And if we select this, okay, it really aligns. So it's also another way for us to double check if we have overlapped shape or not. And today, in this case, it actually emerged itself into the calculation process, so we don't have to worry, right? And remember what I mentioned about the layering system in CAD? In the SketchUp, it's called text, and you also can find it in the tray. It's called text here. So I will bring my text here. That's my text. What you see here, they are actually exactly the same as your CAD layers. But remember the function or the recognition ways in SketchUp and in CAD, they are different. So in this case, we don't really need those tags while we will create our own tags in the SketchUp. So now what we can do is we can select all. There is one tag called untagged. We will leave it there, but we will select anything all, including the block layer we created. Right click, select delete tags. Now it will ask me, do I want to delete the context in the tags, or we just want to delete tags while we can assign those contexts, the shapes, data into certain tag. That's something we will do. We will assign to another tag, which is the untagged. Now we have no other tags, right? But you see here, we create some blocks. They are isolated already, right? So now we will create new tags based on the type of the isolation, the type of the blocks we created, and also the the block in CAD, when we imported them into the SketchUp, it becomes group. This is called component. Oh, yes, they are called component, but they are isolated. And one another thing, gonna do here, we're gonna create the text. What I usually do is I will give a consistent names between different projects. So, sometimes we can grab the elements we already have from this file to another file. So in this case, I will call, we have what? Planting. So this is planting. If we have this entity info here, we can assign them into planting, right? And then we can create one called furniture. And we can select the site furniture, assign them into furniture. And also same as AutoCAD, we can control visibilities of the layers tags. So I will hide whatever already assigned. Okay. And what else? Concrete joints. That's called conc joints. I will assign into conc joints. Okay. And this planters, right? I will select them all and make a group. You see, make group. And also I will assign them to a new layer of the planter. Okay, now whatever left here, they are single lines, right? They are flattened shapes to the surface. Okay, now we are going to make the faces for the base of our model. I know some of you guys may have an extension called make face, but it can increase the speed of creating faces. But if you don't have it, that's fine. Like me personally, I don't use it. There's also a quick way we can make it, and also making faces. The process is is the foundation of a good model in the SketchUp, and there's no way you can avoid the process of making face. Sometimes in a complex model, the timing, the process of making face can be quite long. But at this stage, you are really need to be patient and make sure you have clean faces. Okay, now what I will do is I will group this and let's just copy it, duplicate one. We can actually move one to the top direction or to down direction. So horizontally, it doesn't move. We only move it for vertical to make sure we have enough space on ground, right? And we can draw a large rectangular. So R for rectangular. A white space. What happened? It covers the shape, right? Because we have this to the bottom. And now it's the time we use one of the function called sandbox. Also, we can find it. We can just arrange it on the top. So we can leave it here for the next time. The function of sandbox, it not only allows you to make landforms, make shapes, but also it allows you to reflect, to mirror lines into the surface or onto the surface. So that's a function we will use. We will select this, and we can select this one called drape. Click drape and click surface. What happened? We see some lines, right? While sometimes, just like this, it happened. Not all lines be duplicated or been reflected on the surface we want. So what else we can do? So there's another way we can do it, right? The reason we should try the drape function, because drape comment is a faster processing comment that allow you to reflect your lines on a surface. Okay, so let's just bring back this to the ground level, which is on the surface. And also it would say intersected plane on intersected plane, right? That's something we want. Okay, we will explode the lines, explode the group first, and we would select everything here except for the text or the groups components we already hide. Right click. There is one called intersect faces, right? In this case, since we have select everything here, we can select either with model or with selections. They are the same. Okay, now it's intersected, right? We see all the lines we want is on the surface. There's no lines missing here, which is good. Okay, now we don't really need this reference plane, right? So now I'm going to delete it and then see what happened. Why the faces are gone? Because when we have this, if you see this much thicker line and this thinner line, right? The thinner lines means you have this thinner line forms part of the closed shape, while this thicker line means this line does not form any enclosed shapes or forms. In this case, if we select the face, you'll see why this selection is connected to the outside, right? That's why, because we don't have a closed area here. So that's also a very important reason that we should try our best to clean up our CAD file and make sure the shapes are closed. But sometimes SketchUp will still not recognize it's closed. Then we will need to do it manually. That's why I said this making phase time could be long sometimes, especially if you're working on a complex project or large scale project. Okay, now we are going to close all this face. So what we should do is erase one line and redraw one. You see, it's closed. But let's never draw a new line on the top of the existing lines. because sometimes it will give you two separate lines. Okay, what happened here? Why it's still not closed? We will see. I remember we did this one. Yeah, you see what happened here? Okay, this is exactly the situation I was talking about. If we have the overlapped curve, you see what happened here? Sometimes it may not give you the true overlapped line, but give you so many fragmented shapes, right? But now for the efficiency of this uh, tutorial, I will just redo this in the SketchUp. But I would suggest to you to clean up in the CAD and bring it back. Okay. Arc, which is here A for arc. You see this blue line, which is a tangent line here. Although this intersection line is the curving, the turning line of this intersection, it's not tangent, but it happens sometimes in the real world. Well, let's just assume it's tangent. Okay. Now you see it's all closed, right? Because the issue of that the overlapped curves. Okay, same practice. Yeah, sometimes I would go over a bit and erase. Make sure it really touches the lines. And also sometimes if you zoom enough, you will see this line, even though your CAD line is clean, you will see the straight line goes beyond the curve. Because remember in the SketchUp, the curves, they are calculated into the connected small segments combined by small pieces of straight line. That's the reason. Okay, now let's just close this again. It's supposed to be good. No, it's not. Because we have one more here. And here. And now it should be good. Yes, see here? And the nose, we should have a face here. Okay, see? What else is our thick lines? Let's try this. Okay, it seems like I forgot to group this. Then let's just make a new group. Okay, okay, let me show you a new function here. It's called copy or duplicate. Okay, for example, if I want to duplicate shape, what I can do is select the shape I want first. And I'm not sure if you know that in the SketchUp, there are two ways you can select. The one is grab your selection frame from right to left. It will allow you to select anything touches in within or with the frame. The other selection is create your selection frame from left to right. In this scenario, you see this? And you see this, right? In this scenario, from left to right, it only allows you to select whatever fully covered by the frame. So use of this two selection is very useful in the SketchUp. Now, how we do the duplicate? Yes, we can do Control C, Control V, right? But for that, it's very hard for us to duplicate multiple. And in some cases, we want to duplicate in multiple in a typical distance. In that case, we will do something like this. First, select the shape, and then we go to move, right? Move function, and you notice here is a distance, and now you see my mouse becomes 4 arrow facing directing 4 ways. Now, let's click Control once. What you see here, there's a plus sign on the top, right? That means your duplication model is on. If you want to cancel that, click Control again, right? So let's use this duplicate. Let's just click, and on the bottom, right bottom, you will see the distance. Let's say, even though the default units is millimeters, but we can give it a meter comment. For example, I want to move it for 10 meter. Let's type 10 m. It moved. Wait. 10 meter. Yeah. Oh, I think my units, they are wrong. Yes, they are definitely wrong. My apologies. Okay, so one of the things we should make sure is check the units in AutoCAD. Right here, it's unitless, so there's no unit. We have to make sure we assign millimeter here and click OK, save. And in this case, since we are taking the new file thing, we can save it and insert the file again. So that's also very important. My apologizes. Let's just import. Okay, you see how small and how large, right? So yeah, I'll do this very quick. Okay, you may ignore this. Yeah, so sometimes in these cases, this inner lines don't really recognize as a surface separation. You can double click, actually triple click, one, two, three. Yes, select anything touches the line, right? And you can also select the surface, use the same method, intersect. And if you notice that, in this round of exporting the file, the faces it calculated is different than what we had last time. So it's all purely controlled by SketchUp itself. Okay, we just cut up. Okay, now let's duplicate. Let's type 20 meters, probably. Okay, what happened? We have a copy, right? The first copy. But if we want to control how many copies we want, we can just type star sign, see the bottom here, right? Star sign means times. And if we give it a time by 10, let's see, 10 meter, oh, too small, 20 meters, right? And star sign by 10, see? We got 1, 2, 3, 6, 10 more here. So that's the way how we duplicate in a certain distance. In this case, why I want to make this because we're supposed to group this. Well, we forgot. So we created a duplicated file to make sure we work in a cleaner space that we can have a group here. So now we can erase this eraser here, type E. And just clean up all unnecessary shapes. Yeah, so it's also an example that you really need to keep a clean CAD base. So you can avoid this process. Let's just intersect again in this one. I'll just redrew one. Okay. It's very weird. Okay. Or if it's a, see here, if it's a planter offset by 200 millimeters, what we can do is we can use another function. It's called offset. This one, default, I think is F. So click and let's type, right? It's just like CAD. We always use type to get the numbers we need. And the measurement for SketchUp is always on the right bottom. So let's just offset by 200. Same thing. Since the last round, we already made this 200 offset. Now we are repeating the same dimension. We can just double click. Okay, now everything is clean. All right, and this one we will just make a component. And let's just move it to branch. Okay, now we have all the faces. So when we have a site, when we have a streetscape, what is also important? The road, right? In the regular urban design, when you have your own project designed in CAD, you should always have a road like the curb to curb, but in this situation, I don't. So I will just make a fake road here for the illustration purposes. Okay, so we always know the curb, the pedestrian, the sidewalk is higher, is a curb height higher than the road. But if we need to think about it, if we need to raise the pedestrian area, which means we have to raise everything, right? But if we lower the road, we only need to lower one surface. So that's the case. We will lower this road. I would lower this by push, which is here shortcuts P, Peter P. Uh, push lower it by 200. Okay, now what happened? We have a box here, a little box here, right? So we will delete the top surface. We will delete whatever unnecessary here. Okay, so we have this. Now you will notice one thing. There are two colors. One is this grayish blue and the other one is white. And we see here it's half white, half grayish blue. It's called default. Uh, the white in this default materials, white is always the positive, and the gray is always the negative. And in the certain rendering programs, for example, Lumion, it doesn't really recognize negative face or negative skin. So the best practice is always to maintain the positive surface facing to your eye. So what we should do is we can select this, right click, and click reverse face, right? How about this curves? We can just think about it. It's a box, and all the faces of the box facing out, they should be positive surface, right? So in this logic, we can select the other face of this box and right click, orient faces. What we see here, it make the negative face into positive, right? Okay, so this is a much quicker way to change the faces. And we have some lower elements, then we just push it down. That's a bike lane. This is a barrier, safety barrier. Notice this line need to be cleaned. Okay, now we start to pull up the shapes. For example, your planters, your retaining walls, your freestanding walls, they are all raised structures, right? And also they are, if you think about the construction method, they are not really related or connected to your surface. So what we're gonna do is we will also isolate the planters just like what we have done for the standard street there. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna double click the surface. It will allow you to not only select the face, but also select all the lines associated with that face. And inside face, edge, inside face, edge, inside face, edge, inside face, edge, inside face here. And the last planter, right? And then let's make a group. Or my fast key is Control G. That's something you will need to set up yourself. Because by default, component, fast key to make component is G. So I make a Control G to make it in the same series, right? So let's go to this group. And remember, at the very, very beginning of the SketchUp, I mentioned there's a component about hide or unhide the rest of the group or the rest of the components. That's the time we can use this comment to compare. So now, now let's double click into the group. We are within this group, right? But also we still can see the shapes not really in this group. By allowing that function, we make the rest of the group gone, right? So this will allow us to make the model in certain situations. Just think about it. If you have a building on the side and the building really blocks your eye. For example, we have the building here, the same thing, building is not related to your surface. Then we just make a group here. And the building, let's just usually building is at 3 meters each floor, but sometimes since the ground floor or ground first few floors, like the second, third floors, they are used for retail purposes or office purposes. When we build up those mixed-use buildings, the podium, like the lower floors, they are always taller on each floor. So, for example, in these cases, I will make a higher ceiling of its base, right? So let's just assume the first floor is 4 meters, okay? So same function, pull or push, right? Here, push or pull. So now let's pull this and give it 4 meter. What happened? It becomes a 4 meters height box, right? And now, usually, like when we do the 3D massing studies, which relates to your urban design studies, we will study over the built forms, and we see the building mass as a same shape of forms through each stories. So in this case, each floor, each store, they are the same. So we will make this first floor as component. And then let's duplicate Okay, for example, if I want first 4 floors to be the same height, you see we have 4 same floors, same boxes. The advantages of component, it allows you to change everything by change one of the component. For example, if I want to push this, you see what happened? Everything changed, right? But if, let's just explode it, like if this is a group and I duplicate this group, when I push this, you see what happened? The other group based on the same form, they don't change, right? So this is the major difference between components and the group. And in this case, we want components, okay? And since for the mixed use buildings, we have our podiums and also we will have our tower with a open roof with amenity features or a green roof, right? In this case, we can make a small tower on the top of the floor. So we will offset, right? You will have your precise number. Like the purpose of this exercise is only for the training, right? So I don't know what's the function, but we can make a tower here. Although it's probably too small, then we can use the offset function, right? Remember, not only it offsets inside, it offsets outside. And let's just pull. Okay, what happened? You see what happened? Since it's a component, when I change one, other things got changed as well, right? So in these cases, we don't want this go this way because we only need one tower, not 1, 2, 3, 4 towers at the same place, especially. So what we're gonna do is let's just go back, right? We will select one, variations, right click, make unique. Now, this is the first variation of your component, which means when you change this one, other components won't affect it. While when you change this one, the unique form won't be affected, right? Now, let's just go back and make that tower. And remember what we have done, right? We duplicate the component, duplicate the floors. So same logic. We will do this as well. Make components, push it for 3 meters. That's a standard height. And let's just duplicate. 25 floors, that's very usual in Toronto. You see, that is a typical mixed-use tower built forms with a big podium and a top one tower, right? And also sometimes we will have 2 towers share with one podiums. And that's the way that we can apply this strategy into that form. We will duplicate. I'm not sure if you noticed that. Today, all the exercise uses the similar techniques over and over again. And all those techniques, they are pretty foundational techniques, but very useful in all of your exercise. Okay, so now you would say it's so boring. Two towers, they are different. And two towers, they look exactly the same, right? So what we can do here, first, we can vary the height, or let's just make this even taller, right? Okay, now we have height variations. How about forms? What techniques we gonna use? We will select this all, right? And right click, make unique. Now you see what happened. You see anything, select in the same, make units comment. They become a new groups of component variation. So let's just make this longer. Okay. Now we have a podium building with two towers. Okay. Now you would think about how about balconies? Everyone likes balcony, right? So in this situation, we can make a very simple balconies. But remember, the first floor on the top of the podium, they don't usually get podiums, but they don't usually get balcony space because they will have foam patio on the rooftop, right? So in this case, we will make this, the bottom one, unique, make it unique. Oh, sorry, that's the unique. And let's go to the upper. And if we wanna have a balconies on the top, on the bottom of the floor, so we can make an offset. Let's give a 2 meters balcony. That's a very large balcony in the current condo, right? And the balconies, concrete floors has its own thickness. That's just cool. A 25 centimeters. I don't know how thick it is. Let's just give it a number. And when we have the balconies, you will think about how about safety issues? We will need glass guard, right? So in that situations, and also the glass has its own thickness, right? So what I'm gonna do is same comment offset. Let's just offset 25 centimeters. So 250 millimeters. And also the glass has its own thickness. So let's just thickness by 2 millimeters. It's very thin, right? So we only would apply this detailed design in a certain level of the studies. While if we talking about the math studies, we probably don't see the glass as a surface. So in that case, we don't need this surface. While for the SketchUp, it's quite uh, sometimes it's annoying to extrude a single face. So in this case, what we can do is we can select this face and make a group. I'm talking about the way we make this without extension, okay? And let's just duplicate how high. Usually it's about 1100 millimeters, right? In this, we can have push down 1100. And then let's just delete all unnecessary faces, right? You will know this. It's very basic. Yes. Okay, now I have it. See? right? Okay, so that is the building. Okay, so the reason why we made the building because I want to show you when we need the function of viewing the rest of the group when we don't, right? In this case, if you want to see anything on the back side, we don't really see it because it's blocked by the building, right? But when we have the comment view, hide the rest of the group, it makes this clear, right? Now, the same as the way we build up the buildings, we can extrude the planters. So let's just give a seat height. Now we have the planters, while inside they are all supposed to be landscape area. While in the urban design or community design at concept design levels, we don't really focus on the planting types, while we see the planting area as a mass, as a space. So in this case, we will just extrude it and give a texture. Like for example, what I would do is I would select all the landscape area and make a group. The reason of making a group is to isolate different materials, different features. And this, we will move this up to the top of the planter. And usually we have the height of the planter of planting materials, right? So we just give it about 300 height, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. And if we just assign a colors, I know you guys may have a much better texture, but it's only for the illustration. So I will just give it a very simple texture here. You see? So you see how nice are those planters, right? So you can apply the same strategies to the flat surface. And we have this standard planter. We want this, okay, the planters. I believe you know how to deal with that variations, just like how we do the building masses, right? We just make the face. Give a variation, so we have height difference, and we have our planting material. Okay, and now if you remember, we have a smaller one, right? So now let's just duplicate one. Okay, and make this unique. Now we want to push everything together. How are we gonna do that? One, we can use we can select everything, right? Select the face or the form we want to move. In this case, we will control the left wall while we move the right wall. So that's the way I select the frame from the left to right, select only the components I need to move, and start to move, use this corner as a reference. And also, if you notice that, if you want to follow one direction, you can hold your shift, make it stay on the direction and go to the point we want. And then you see this planting area is exposed, right? We can use the same command to scale this, or we can use a function called scale. which is this. Since it's a group, it can be scaled as its own, right? For example, if we want to scale in each of this, that's the time we don't want to scale them as a group because we see this as itself. And when we push it or when we rescale it, it scale everything. Now we rescale this to the point. Yeah, see, we have a variation. Okay. And for example, if we want to apply the concrete, let's just use the concrete. Remember, we saved the layer called concrete joints. That's the time we bring in. You see, concrete with the joints, and these joints, they don't separate each faces. So that's why I make this group, make this isolated by its own. Okay. And now, if you remember, we have layer called planting, layer called furniture. And let's just go explore why I want to make them as block within each group, right? On the side, I also have a library file just to drop those side furnitures in. I will use this library file as a reference of the furnitures, of the objects. Okay, so let's just grab this bike rack. In this case, we can Control C and Control V, right? So let's get into this block already. So let's drop the bike rack. What you see here, everything contains this bike rack, right? That's the reason why I like to make them block in the CAD. And then it becomes components. Now, what we only need to do is to locate this into one of the racks. Now you will see all the back racks have the furnitures there. And then we will apply the same method, right? And also same as the trees. In the CAD, I already made the trees into different blocks. Well, for the consistency design of the street, we usually will have the same species with 2 or 3 trees continuously planted along the street. So same method, I would grab it from my library. Okay, we have some trees. Why it's red? Because when I select this block, you see here, it defaults color is red. Let's just get rid of this color. I give it to be default. And now if we want to assign a green color, we can do them in the component, right? Same logic. Just give it color for now. Yeah. Our color, you see, we got trees. And also why we don't have trees in this block, because they are different blocks. Okay, now I would maybe have this big trees. I don't know if this fits. Well, let's just try it. See, just give it, since it's two different trees, we can give it different color. Okay, see? So this is an overlook of a street, right? And now, due to the time, I will not fill all those small side furnitures, but you kind of get the logic in the comment I used to build up this, right? The workflow, that's the key. Now, I want to compare, as what I mentioned very earlier, what's the difference between perspective and two-point perspective? I apologize. So let's go to the perspective. Okay, where is my model? Where is the object? Sometimes when we change the view, this happens. So how can we gain our model back? If you see this icon here, it's called zoom extend, right? We click once, it will bring you back to the aerial view of your objects of your model. All right, so just click this. I think that's a new handy function. I think in the previous models, previous version of the SketchUp, it only gives you a zoom function, and in that case, you would need to double click the zoom function to get this extends view. Anyway, so how we get a human view, since we are in the perspective, right? Perspective view is the human view, is the reality eyesight view. It's the view we can see, we actually can see, right? So if you see here is a camera, right? Let's drop a camera in the point of view. For example, we want to leave our view here. Let's just click it. Okay, see what happened. It zoom in, but how can I know if it's a human height or if it's a giraffe height, right? To the bottom here, always check the measurement here. That's the eye height. It's about 1400. That's a teenagers, right? So usually we want to make it probably 6 foot. That's 1800. And you will see why the view frame it's so small, why this building becomes this so dense block, right? And this may not be fully reflected to your eye or to your intentional purposes, but we can change the zooming angle, the perspective angle, right? So now what we need to do is, if we click the zoom function here, we will see here it says the field of views is 35 degree. If we want to see more, let's just try, how about 60? What happened? Let's just hide, let me just hide this hands. So what happened will be if we change this from 35 to 60. See? From 35 to 60, 60 is a much wider angle view. For example, you are using your cameras, right? You can select if it's a standard view, if it's a wide angle view. So that's the way how we adjust this. Go to the zoom function and change the field of view. Okay, let's back to the camera. Okay, so now when you select a camera here, right? How about if you wanna turn your head around while you're standing on the same place. Now, if you see the icon becomes an eye, or you can find this icon here, right? And just use your left click and pan your screen. You would look around while standing on the same place. But you would ask, how about if I want to travel a bit through the space? What I can do, right? Now is the time for you to select this walk function. You will see a tiny people here, and you will just need to hold your left click and just go in above. You see what happened? There was a going up. You see? So this walkthrough function allows you to walk along the surface. When we have this curve, we have a elevation changes. This also reflects on your view. So we are really actually can use this function to record your walking through experience in your model, right? So it's really handy function you can use. You can use as a reference. And also now, since we are in the perspective view, what you see here, we have vantage point to the left, we have vantage point to the right, and also what else? We have vantage point on along your vertical directions. You see, even though those vertical structure lines, they should be parallel, but none of them, they are parallel, right? You will see a angle of the vertical lines. This is very obvious because we have a big field of view. If we go back to zoom, and if we change it to 35, you will see this is not that obvious anymore, right? And how in some cases we don't want to show those vertical lines angle. What we should do. So now is the time for us to change it to your 2-point perspective. You see, in this case, we still have the vantage point to the right, left, vantage point to the right, while on the vertical directions, all the lines, they are parallel. So, please compare this different views, different models of views, and use it properly in certain situations for the certain studies. Till now, are there any questions from you guys? That's very important. Okay, so I will talk about this very briefly since we already have a model, right? Okay, so let's go back to the top view. And for the shade studies, we always want to use a plan view, the pure plan view. So we'll turn off this, go back to the parallel view. Okay, and now we can turn on the shade. Also, in your tray, there is one tray called shadows, right? So we can click this. We will see the shadows. But how do we know if it's the orientation? If this build-up's orientation is correct, and how do we know the location is correct, right? So now I would like to introduce one extension. You can get it from Extension Warehouse. I would say this is quite necessary for you to have in SketchUp. It's called Solar North. Solar North allows you to select the true north in the model. Remember when we imported the CAD, the model, we rotate it for easier access and easier to go around, right? So so the model north is actually sometimes not true north. In this situation, we can set up a true north. So by clicking this one, we can find a origin point, and you see the black thicker line is the true north. We can set up our own true north. For example, if in Toronto, it's always like this, right? And sometimes you would ask, if I forgot, or if I always want to contain into my studies, how would I do? So there's another click. It's called display north. It always shows the orange line, direct north, right? And then the next question is, how can we get the location right? The locations, we can go to model info. There's one called geolocations. We can actually add location. It linked to your Google map, right? For example, if we search CN Tower, it brings you to CN Tower. Yes or no here? No, that's not CN Tower. Okay, we'll just find our own. Okay, how about Roger Center? Okay, you see this location here, let's just select, right? And we can import, right? Because it requires me to update my SketchUp, so it currently doesn't allow me to do that. But once we select, we can import, right? Or we can set this manually. Like if we don't need that process, right? We can select Canada, Toronto. It actually asks me to do that. So yeah, we can also input the information here, and if we save, you get a location you set up. And now the commit of the shade studies, it's between the timing and between the date, right? So now there are two adjust timelines. The one is the time between day to night, and the other one is about the month of each years. Now you can find the change of your shade, right? And also, one thing you notice that is you find this shade is not transparent because it casts to the ground, right? So if we uncheck that, you see that it becomes transparent. Okay, so this is a little quick setup on your shade studies. And this is some of the basic foundations I would like to go through today. Any questions for now? If no other questions, I will give you guys some resources, some supports. You can go through the links to get more experience of the softwares or get more ideas, different kind of supports of the softwares. Okay, if no, I'm going back my PowerPoint PDF. Okay, the support, right? So today I purposely don't go over the rendering softwares, but because it's not quite related to the workflows, but always as an end product, you always want to apply rendering over your modeling, right? So these three types, they are, I would say, mainstreamed industrial rendering engine or rendering products. The first one is the real time. So Currently, like I'm a big user of Onscape. Lots of companies, landscape design, architectural companies use Onscape. In Canada, some of them use Twinmotion, D5. Last semester, when I taught uh, the current third-year students, I know some of them already started to use D5. And I also had a Onscape tutorial with them. So you may go through the website, check out the YouTube to see how it works. So for the real time, it's really easy to access. You basically it acts as a live rendering program. So when you do anything changed in your SketchUp or in your Rhino, it reflects with no delay. Okay. So the second type, I call this after modeling, is it requires you have a model progress and you import the model into the rendering engine. So the most famous one is Lumia. Unfortunately, Lumia only supports the Windows due to the graphic cards requirements. And there's another one, like if you are really looking for hyper realistic photo shooting quality of the image, you may try V-Ray here, or there's not another one applied in industrial design or more objects design. It's called Keyshot. Uh, Interesting thing is Onscape and V-Ray, actually both of softwares, they are owned by the same companies, bought for different users or different groups for different needs. Okay, and Adobe Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, and After Effects. Never forgot about your best friends in your life, Adobe Suites, right? It's not isolated, even though they are more about graphic design platforms, right? But when we really want to enhance and do some uh, personalizations, we cannot avoid Adobe and the magic of Photoshop, Illustrator. So don't throw this away. Don't isolate to see Adobe, the uses of Adobe, relate Adobe to your modeling workflow, to your rendering workflow is necessary at some point, right? And also there are two tutorial platforms. The first one is called Visualizing Architecture by Alex Hugorev. This is the one uh, doing professional architectural visualizations. Like when I was a student, when I started to learn SketchUp, Rhino, and all different types of rendering, such as like night rendering through Photoshop or winter rendering, like snow effect rendering in Photoshops, I learned from this guy. And this guy is still keep updating all the tutorials fit for the fashion of the professional program. So I checked out his tutorial recently. He also released some new tutorials related to the Twinmotion D5, those sort of things. So please check out. And also he does provide very basic tutorials like how to draw a line in Photoshop, how to organize your layouts in InDesign file, things like that. So go to check out that, not just for the modeling. It's for the entire, I would say, architectural circle of the visualizations. The second one is called Learn Upstairs. So they have its own tutorials on their own personal website. While they actually released quite often free videos, free tutorials on YouTube channels. It shows lots of good examples. How can you use those simple 3D models to do quick conceptual diagrams, like those big architects styles of diagrams from simple 3D model, SketchUp model to Adobe enhancement and make it really funky, creative, attracts your audience. And the fourth one is a texture website. It's a free use texture website, architectural texture website. You can find major textures through this website, like glass, concrete, unipaver surface, wood, metal, plastic, water, uh, all those type of categories. And the amazing thing, the amazing function of this website, it allows you to customize for free. For example, if you are applying a piece of natural stone as a pavers, and you cannot find exactly the shapes or the patterning you want from certain manufacturers like Unilock or Techo block, right? So that's a time like it doesn't mean you cannot use it, right? Because in some good budget project or conceptual project, those customized or creative materials is always encouraged. So through this website, you can do your own patternings, set up the sizing of the pattern, set up the gap, like the frequency of the pattern you want, overlap on the texture, and it allows you to download high quality image like JPEG or PNG. So you can apply this in your SketchUp or in your Rhino or Photoshop, right? So it's really good. I've been using it for a long time. And the fifth is about the side furniture. Like side furnitures, I would say this is the really highlight or the elements or make your design alive, right? So these three manufacturers, they are like some mainstreams manufacturers in the industry. So you can go to their website, check out their catalogs, and bring some interesting side furniture into your design to fit your design philosophy, to fit your form. Okay, you don't have to track it, and we have this recorded, and also at the end of the tutorial, I will also share this PDF for Nadia, so you guys all can get it, right?